Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a disassembly discourse for you as I disassemble and maintain this little guy right here. This is my Southern Knives mini Tolk. So, today's topic of discourse is basically your emotional feelings towards makers as humans and how that can play a role in things. So the problem with doing these kinds of things is that at this point I end up with a slightly different relationship to the industry, to makers, etc., than I think most random jackasses from the street do. Just because I have this relationship as a reviewer, right? I have to... And so, a lot of people expect me to be able to factor this out. There's this myth, and I've talked about this before, of the unbiased review. Like, no, every review is biased. If it weren't biased, it wouldn't be a review. There's no damn such thing. But at the same time, as an unbiased review, that is. But nonetheless, it's something that I've had to think about, and that I do think about, perhaps a lot more than most people do. And by the way, if you're curious about the tools I'm using for this disassembly, yeah, that's T15. Go ahead and go nickshabazz.com/tools. But nonetheless, this can be, whether you like a maker or not, can actually be it can play a major role. And I'd kind of like to talk a little bit more from the perspective of your everyday jackass in the community, and a little bit less from the perspective of being a gear reviewer or something, although, I'll probably mention that in general. The thing that inspired this video, actually, is was actually a conversation I was having with a friend of mine. I'm not going to mention his name because no particular need. And I don't want to call him out. I didn't clear this video with him. But anyways, he was saying basically that he used to have a particular knife. In this case, it was an Olemic whippersnapper. And I know that he really liked that knife, but he ended up selling it along, I think partly due to financial reasons and partly due to... he's a person, let's put it this way. He is the George R.R. Martin of collecting. He is absolutely in love with a piece and then gets rid of it pretty promptly. That's just a fact of who he is. And hey, we all love him for it, right? But anyways, that's sort of that's his nature. That's the nature of his beast. But anyways, so he had one of these guys, and then he said to me something along the lines of, or he said in the chat or something, I think this was on Patreon Discord, hey, I'm thinking of picking up another Olemic whippersnapper. I said, oh, didn't you have one of those? He said, yeah. I said, well, what changed? What gives? Why'd you make the switch? Why are you buying another one? He said, well, I spent a lot more time talking with Eugene from Olemic. So Eugene is the co-owner, president, Big Cheese, Grand Poobah, whatever, over at Olemic. He's a nice guy. I can personally vouch for that. He's solid. So but anyways, guy said, I spent some more time talking to Eugene, and I found myself, really wanting to support the company, really wanting to support Olemic. It brought me joy to buy something from somebody who, I don't know whether he's a friend or not, but at the very least, somebody who's very friendly, somebody who's very kind. And so my buddy made the decision to basically repurchase a piece that he had once owned. Actually, he didn't repurchase the exact one, but he's buying another one. So that's kind of cool at some level. I mean, it's kind of cool in that it represents something that is very deeply irrational about humanity. And by the way, I'm not calling my buddy irrational here. I'm not calling him crazy or anything like that, because I have done and felt very much the same thing. There are definitely pieces that are in my collection, and actually one could make an argument that this guy right here, this is the Brad Southern mini Tolk. Part of the reason I like this knife, it's a great knife, and in fact, in terms of flippers, this might be one of my favorite flippers in my collection. Might be one of my, hedge much? But anyways, I've had a bunch of opportunities to chat with Brad Southern, at Blade Show and things like that. And, he and I have had some very good conversations. And they're not like just conversations about, knife making, although he taught me some things about knife making, but more importantly about sort of life in general. So he's a person who I consider to be a solid human. I don't know how he is as a knife maker, aside from, the few interactions I've had, and I do my best not to put too much weight in how people are to me. Because, speaking honestly, as a gear reviewer, it's kind of in a person's best interest from a business standpoint to be nice to me. It's kind of awful to say, but it's also kind of true, right? It makes sense to be kind to reviewers because they're going to be reviewing you, and that can have a business impact. But anyways, hopefully he's not that cynical about it. But nonetheless, he was a solid person. So I feel this too. There are definitely pieces where I like the piece more from a personal level, just because I feel like I like the maker, because I think the maker is a solid human. But anyways, this is kind of a cool phenomenon, right? Because you would think at some level that gear purchasing would be something relatively objective for a given person, right? Like you look at things, you see, okay, these are the various options available. Of those options, this is the one that provides me the best value. This is the one that best suits my needs, blah, 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 blah. And on you go. And eventually you make your purchase. And all of this has happened in this beautifully objective, absolutely makes complete and total sense way. In practice, though, there were all these other things that play a role, right? And, ranging from, do you like the design? And, one could argue that design is a part of function, right? But also, all of these other things, like, and it can range from like, I like this particular piece because, a good friend of mine carried one for a long time. So it reminds me of them. Or, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things that can play a role in there is your feelings about the maker, positive interactions with the maker. And this can be positive direct interactions or positive indirect interactions. One of the things that the Grimsmos have done perhaps best of anybody is using social media to that end. The Grimsmos of Grimsmo Knives are absolutely masterfully good at creating content for the knife-interested audience, also for the machining-interested audience, but that, shows the process, that shows the behind-the-scenes, that lets you feel like you've gotten to know. This thing falls out one more time, I'm going to be pissed. It makes you feel like you actually kind of know the Grimsmos as humans, right? And that, I think, for many people, makes the pieces that they sell more desirable. It's like, not only do I know... Is that just so over tight? Probably. So I'll loosen this up a little bit. But, that's a little too loose now. But I think that's something that they've done really well. By, having this social media presence, they've made it so that people are more readily able to, know them, to appreciate their work, just purely from that standpoint. It can go the other way, though, and something can become less valuable as a result of your interactions with them. And I've had this happen, for myself a number of times, and I've heard it over and over and over again in the community. And this sounds, like, so-and-so, yeah, they kind of make some cool designs. I guess I like the look of them, but, oh, my God, I could never give that person money because X. And that X can be many, many, many things. That X could be, and so there's your mini talk. Actually, we're talking about the Grimsmos. I'll go ahead and I'll put this guy back together. Take this guy apart, that is. Here's Grimsmo Knives Norseman right here. So, but it can go the other way. Like, I think that this person is a jerk. And therefore, I do not want to support this person at all, even if I like something that they sell. Even if what they sell seems like a good value, and it seems like something I would want to have in my collection, I do not want to support this jerk, and therefore I am not going to do so. So that's sort of the opposite side of the coin, right? And I think that's also an important thing to keep in mind, especially as makers are crafting their public, persona, right? In some cases, I think makers are specifically playing up a character that they think is going to appeal to a group of people, even at the cost of appealing to others, or actively not appealing to others. They're playing to a demographic. They might be just trying to kind of show everybody, hey, look, I am of your type, so to speak, and therefore you should buy a knife from me. That's a dangerous game that you play, because it can turn a bunch of people off. At the same time, it turns a bunch of people onto your work, but, hey, whatever. If you believe the numbers are better, have fun. But nonetheless, you can have a lot of really serious, appreciation for a maker and have that spoiled by bad interactions. And I don't just mean bad interactions in the sense of business interactions, but also just in the sense of, like, you see them say or do something really distasteful on social media. And I mean distasteful to you, of course, these things. It's hard to find objective things that are distasteful, although one could argue that there's a pretty good consensus on some of them. But, it is definitely the case that there have been some makers where it's just like you have an interaction with them, and you're just like, oh, actually, you know what? I'm not as interested in your stuff anymore. Or even in cases where you own something, and then you're like, oh, I don't know about this. I'm not feeling this anymore. That is, like I said, it's completely and totally irrational because at some level the piece hasn't changed. If you like the piece, however long ago before they said or did X, X of course being whatever the heck they said it did, the thing hasn't materially changed, but your emotional connection to it has changed. And that's a part of what we're all buying, right? Is this emotional connection to our gear. We're buying at some level our desire to support these artists, because I think at some level it is artists. And so there have been many cases where it's like somebody, and like even as a reviewer, it's like, okay, you can really like somebody's work, but then if you hear stories about them doing really bad work on the warranty front, or if you hear stories about them screwing somebody over, it's just like, oh, that's really, really tough. And, I try and give benefit of the doubt. I try and reach out to people and get a sense of what's going on. And in most cases, they either make it right or at least make it make sense from their perspective. And, and I got to be cautious, of course, because there could always be some level of BS in all that, right? They could always be like, oh, Nick, this is how it went down. And in reality, that's not at all how it went down. But nonetheless, you got to be cautious about that. But it's very easy for a maker to say or do something, I think, that can push people over that emotional edge in either direction. And so this is sort of one of the dangerous games that you play. And I suppose I'm playing this same game as a reviewer, right? Because I'm making a product, and that product is YouTube videos. And so if I say or do something in a video that I think somebody finds distasteful, and I've definitely had this happen before, where I get angry comments like, oh my God, Nick, until you said you were a vegetarian, I was a big fan of your show, but now it's over. It's done. I'm leaving. And the problem is they generally come back every week to tell me they're done, over, and leaving. So it kind of makes me think that they're not done, over, or leaving. Anyways, I digress. So, but these things they're a very real factor in both a positive way and a negative one. So I don't know. I mean, maybe this whole rant is, maybe this whole rant is ridiculous. I suspect it is. But at some level, it reminds me of the importance of, I don't know, how do I put it? Just the importance of being a human and being a good human in the community. Because there are definitely other people where it's not like I believe them to be personally bad, but I've just seen them screw people over as business people. Or in some cases, I see makers acting like bullies or talking like bullies. And this can be something that'll kind of take them off my table. Personally, as a reviewer, that's actually a very important thing for me to take a look at, because chances are if somebody is being a jerk to other people, then if they don't like some element I review, they're going to be a jerk to me. So it's not worth the risk to me. It's like, why would I take the time to promote your goods when there's a pretty good chance you're going to be a jerk to me in the same way I see you being a jerk to other people? There have been many people who it's like, I'd be interested in your stuff, but you kind of strike me as somebody who's going to be more pain than it's worth, just from that reviewer perspective, but also from an owner perspective. Some people have definitely lost my business, so to speak, just by being jerks publicly. So, it's a factor, and it's something that I encourage people to kind of think about as you are going about your life as a maker, as you're going about your life as a human too. But, it's an important detail. Think about what you're doing. And think about who you're helping, think about who you're hurting, etc., because that can play a role. And that role can be very, very intensely personal for people. And it can be very irrational. And, some people are like, well, I don't care what people think about me. If they like my knives, they're going to like my knives. If they don't, they don't. Like, okay, that's great. But at some level, it's a little short-sighted, I think, because, at the end of the day, you had a pool of this many people who like your stuff. Maybe that pool would be larger if you wanted jackass about things. I don't know. It's tough. But anyways, it's just something that I've thought a lot about, because it's something that I try very hard to factor out. It's something that I try very hard not to consider as I'm doing my reviews. As I'm looking at something on my table, I try to put aside my feelings, positive and negative towards a maker as I'm doing that. And in some cases it's easier, and in other cases it's harder. But I do my best to do that, just because I think, of course I can't be objective. I'm never going to be objective, but I think it's better if I try to kind of keep that stuff aside. And it's difficult for me, certainly, to say nasty things about people who I like as humans. But, the thing is, part of the reason I tend to like people is that they're doing good work, right? And so, generally speaking, the people I bother to get to know are the people who I already respect. And so people who are making utter trash, I don't even bother with. I'm sure they're lovely humans, but if you're making utter trash and you're selling it on the market, like, dude, stop doing that and we'll talk, right? But anyways, it's a factor, and it's a bigger factor than I think a lot of people give credit for, and I think it's a very important factor. And it's something that you should definitely be thinking about if you're a maker, or frankly, just if you're a human. If you're thinking about something like, why am I making this decision? Why do I like this person? Why do I not? Does it matter? Should it matter? All of those are good questions. So anyways, that was kind of a rant. Well, of course it was a rant, and I told you from the start. But anyways, I hope you found this interesting, and have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.